These are the brand new Sony WF-1000XM6 earbuds. According to Sony, the XM6s are the best noise canceling earbuds on the market, period. That is a big statement. We'll get into the ANC test to see how these actually compare, but first I want to mention that I'll be doing a lot of testing in this video. Microphone, ANC, transparency, sound quality, and I'll be demonstrating as much as possible in this video because Sony sent these earbuds over ahead of launch and is sponsoring this video. To avoid conflict of interest, I'll be comparing these to the X Mark 5s to see what's new, what's improved, and what's different about the XM6s. But that ANC claim, let's get back to that, and I think we should just start the video there. I usually do 3 distinct tests to understand the ANC. A lot of people think it's just linear, like how powerful is the ANC, but there's a lot of different frequencies and situations that you'd be trying to block out. So the first test I like to do is a jet noise test. I have the sound of a jet played on a speaker at a set distance away, and I turn that up until the earbuds are no longer able to block that out. The X Mark 5s from a couple years ago are still S tier. They're still among the best in the industry, definitely top 3, and these are blocking about 61.5 decibels. That's what I've always tested with them, so no surprise, I was testing the same levels today. Then the new X Mark 6s. Get this, we went from 61.5, which was already, top of the industry. That was really, really impressive, all the way up to 67 decibels when blocking those lower sounds. That was a really strong start for these earbuds. That's really for, I think, 3 or 4 main reasons. You have a new QN3E processor. We now have 8 microphones on this instead of 6. We have a better fit, and we have new drivers. So for the better fit, Sony, of course, sampled like tons and tons of ears when designing this, and according to them, this one should fit more ears a little bit better. The new drivers, I'll talk more about that in sound quality, but that is a huge aspect as well. And we also have adaptive noise cancellation optimizer on these, so that whole combination gives you a better, more powerful ANC engine. That, like I said, first test, very strong. But there's 3 ways that I test ANC. The second one is the higher frequencies. So if you're trying to block out somebody talking, for example, I wanted to do a test where I needed somebody to talk and I could control the volume. So I played a Taylor Swift interview, and I wanted to see how well the earbuds would block it out. Nothing against Taylor Swift, but the Sony XM5s blocked out to about 49.5 decibels. The X Mark 6s blocked to about 50 decibels, so a little bit more, but not a ton more because that's really reliant a lot more on the passive noise blocking when you're dealing with those higher frequencies. And the Sony WF-1000 series already does a really good job because they have these foam ear tips, and the new ones, the 6s, are very similar in material to the 5s. I think it's actually the same material. The third test I like to do is just in a silent room. Sometimes ANC is noisy and there's a lot of white noise, but with these, the ANC, it was true on the 5, so no surprise. It's also true on the 6. It's just dead silent. You don't have any kind of hissing or white noise. So as far as ANC goes, like I said, a very strong start for these earbuds. Now, before we get into the transparency, let's get into a microphone test. I mentioned we have 8 microphones instead of 6, and according to Sony, this is Sony's best call quality ever. All right, so let's start off with the indoor test. These are the Sony WF-1000XM6s. Inside, so a fairly easy environment, and these already did a pretty decent job in my comparison several months ago, but let me know how these sound compared to the Sony WF-1000XM6s. These, as I said, should have a significantly better microphone performance, but let me know how it sounds inside. And now, let's go outside to a loud environment and see how well they both deal with the ambient sound compared to my voice. Phone test outdoors, busy road here. These are the XM5s. As you can see right there, there's not really a lot of wind out here. Definitely a lot of sound behind me though. So we'll see how these are able to isolate my voice. And these are the new Sony WF-1000XM6 earbuds. So are these doing a better job of isolating my voice and blocking out the sound around me? Does it sound different? Let me know in the comments down below. And then kind of tying up this little segment of the video, let's talk about the transparency. That is something that I think it's hard to really quantify and it's hard to explain the difference. Really the main thing I notice is that there's definitely less hissing and white noise on the newer one compared to the previous generation. Like when I went back to the 5s, I was shocked. You really do notice quite a difference there. The new ones also do sound a bit louder and a bit more clear, so it sounds more natural, even with those foam ear tips on the earbud. So definitely a win for the 6s. Now let's get into the fit, the comfort, and the design. So the fit, these do have those foam ear tips. They come in 4 different sizes. So in the box, you've got this extra small, small, and large ones, and obviously the mediums are already on the earbuds. And the foam tips definitely make them extremely secure. So once you find the right size, you could either get kind of a really tight fit if you wanted to, or you have to like pinch it and then like really get it in your ear, or you can go with more of a loose fit that just fits securely in your ear. So I already went for a run with these and they don't fall out. There are 2 different colors available. So there is the platinum silver, which is kind of like a little sandy matte color. I actually really like this. This is my favorite color of the 2. And the other one is black. And if you look at them side by side, the logo is a little bit more muted this time, a little bit more matte, a little more subtle, but still on the top. And the case designs are also quite a bit different. Even though they have a similar, like just upright footprint, it kind of looks like the 5s are like the 6s if you just put them in a rock tumbler for like a couple months. It just got really rounded off. So the new design is a lot sharper all the way around. And the earbuds also have a slightly different geometry now. So they're 11% slimmer, meaning when you're wearing them, they should have a smaller profile as well. Looking at the front of the case, we no longer have that LED visible. That's because it's actually behind the plastic now, kind of a sleek way of doing that. I think that's cool. The earbuds are IPX4 water resistant, and you get 8 hours of battery in the earbuds and 24 hours when you include the case. Of course, mileage is going to vary based on the volume and ANC and stuff that you use with these, but the case does have wireless charging, which is a big positive. We've got USB Type-C charging on the back. We've got our pairing button on the back. My favorite design elements are actually the synthetic leather cases that Sony's launching that also allow for wireless charging while giving you a premium aesthetic on your earbuds. Looking at the earbuds, they do have ear detection, so they know when they're in your ears or out of your ears. You've got 2 nodes right there that are going to be for charging. And if you look at the buds themselves, you can see that different geometry, the more muted colorway on this one, much less shiny, and you don't have the accent on the microphone. In fact, because we have more microphones on the 6, if you look closely, you can actually see them. Just kind of, they blend in with the design pretty well. They're not a big accent. The earbuds are, like I said, a very different geometry, so even though you can technically put them in the old case and it does close, the nodes are not going to line up, so it won't actually charge them. So the cases are not reverse compatible. You wouldn't expect them to be, but I know people are going to ask, so there's your test. As far as controls go, there's still capacitive touch sensors, so you can touch them once, twice, 3 times, or tap and hold, or you can also tap them 4 times, and you can also customize all of that in the app for both left and right. And speaking of the app, might as well get into an app tour right now. Let's see what's new. Ooh, it's talking to me. Okay, this is a cool feature. It's telling me the time and the weather just because I put the earbuds in. It's optional, but that's kind of a cool feature to have. Here, let me turn ambient sound on so I'm not yelling, but taking a look at the app here, you can see when you first sign into the app, it'll show your earbuds. They have a nice little animation when they pop up. You can see the codec you're using. So right now, AAC, I'm using an iPhone, so that makes sense. We've got the battery levels on here. Then below that, you have ambient sound control. And by the way, you can customize this entire dashboard. Sony redid their app a couple years ago. I actually really like the way it looks now. So you have as much control as you want, but as little as you want on the surface here. So kind of convenient how that works. But ambient sound control, if you tap into that, you can choose if you want auto ambient sound, which is going to adjust based on where you are. So in your house, it'll be a little more volume up. If you go outside where there's a noise, it'll turn the volume back down. You can have voice pass through, so it can filter on in voices. That way, if you're like, all right, I want to work, but I want to hear when someone talks to me, you can block out like the HVAC and stuff, but voices still come through. Definitely sounds a lot different. I'm going to turn that off. And then going back, we've got listening modes. This is something that I haven't really seen anyone else. Like I've seen some other companies try to copy this, but no one else quite does it as well as Sony does. The listening mode. So the standard mode is exactly what you'd expect, but background music makes it sound like your music's playing in a room. So I'm not sure if it adds like reverb. It's hard to really say what it does, but it sounds like your music's a little further away from you. And if you turn on ambient sound and background music, it really does feel like you're in like a coffee shop listening to music. Kind of easier for some people to focus. It's a cool setting though. You've got adaptive sound control, which will switch between different modes or different scenes based on like if you're walking or running or something like that. You can connect to multiple devices simultaneously, so these do have multi-point connectivity. So phone, laptop, seamless switching, easy to do that. You've got music playback controls on the bottom and more device settings if you tap into that, or you can go into like battery management. You can customize your controls right here, as I mentioned before. Oh, I forgot to mention, as far as controls go, we do also have head gestures. So let me tap into that. I'll show you. We can actually like say yes or no when phone calls come in to answer or reject them. And if we go to sound quality or volume, Sony still has DSEE Extreme, so it's going to upscale your music. And if we go to scene, the earbuds are kind of more intelligent here, so they can, like, if you start wearing them and go for a run, they'll detect that, they'll play music. If you're walking, they do different things, and you can customize what they're going to do for everything right there. It could be based on time of day, on location, and things like that. We also have menu over there. You can go to support and stuff like that. But overall, the app, I really do like the redesign. Like I said, they show you a lot of stuff, but also make it very simple and accessible from the surface level here. And then, of course, talking about sound quality, Sony's big thing is that these are tuned with engineers from Battery Studio, so they're meant to sound good for a lot of different styles of music. There's deep and immersive bass, but we also have the new driver on here that is very powerful and very capable. The codecs on here are SDC, AAC, LDAC, and LC3, so depending on which phone you have, you could be taking advantage of the high-res audio. And if we look at the equalizer, you have two options. You can do the EQ from the main screen, or you could also go from right here, like I said, or you can go into Find Your Equalizer, which is kind of like a little like preference test right here when you're playing music. So if I say next, it'll make me select a bunch of things. I'll choose what sounds best, and then it'll select more things. I'll choose what sounds best there, and it picks an EQ based on my own preferences without having to go through the sliders. So for anyone who doesn't really understand EQs, you have that option. For anyone else, you can go and edit your EQ right here, and we have, what is that, a 10-band EQ, and you can slide each of them up, plus or minus 6. There's a bunch of preset EQs, and you can also have multiple, I think 2 different custom ones as well. So let's get into some pros and cons of these earbuds, starting off with the pros. My favorite thing about the WF-1000XM6s has to be the ANC. These things block out so much noise thanks to the combination of passive noise blocking on the foam ear tips and a way stronger ANC. These are so impressive for noise cancellation. Also, Sony consistently has perhaps the most features of any earbuds I test. In fact, many other companies copy Sony's features years after they come out. As far as cons go, these foam ear tips do a great job of blocking sound, but I wish they were a little bit easier to put into my ears. I recommend keeping them warm, however, so if you're outside in the winter, if you just keep them in your pocket, that'll keep the foam nice and soft, and they should be a lot easier to put in your ears in the winter. And of course, the price, I would say for premium earbuds, it's definitely competitive, but I need to chalk it up on the con side just because they're increasing the price by $30 compared to the X Mark 5s, which were launched 2.5 years ago. Probably tracks inflation. I don't know, you guys can do the math, but still, these are $329. So, in conclusion, the new Sony WF-1000X Mark 6s, super impressive in their big ANC improvement. That is a huge win right here. I'm gonna be using these a lot, especially when I travel, if I'm on flights. The long battery life, the strong ANC, and multi-point connectivity definitely make them perfect for travel. I'll probably also make a lot of comparison videos, so if you guys wanna see these compared to any other earbuds, leave a comment below, let me know what I should compare them to, and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that video. Thanks for watching, I'm Mike O'Brien, and I'll see you in those videos.